Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Should Americans be forced to take the vaccine? That is the subject of this somewhat controversial episode of Ignition Time. Welcome to our channel, everyone. My name is Dr. Chhoda, and this right here is a little bit of information about me. Please click the like button, please click subscribe, and enable notifications. Give me some credit for trying to tackle such a challenging subject, and please click the like button because we can agree to disagree. Here's a headline of an article from Bloomberg. The United States reaches 75% of adults with at least one vaccine dose. In fact, President Biden has outlined a new strategy, and the administration is preparing to begin Pfizer booster shots. In fact, Moderna just announced that a booster shot would tackle both COVID as well as the flu. Moderna just announced that. But the problem is there's a continued surge of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths due to the Delta variant. So President Biden is going to outline, in fact, has outlined a six-pronged strategy to get the pandemic under control. So what did the president say? Well, here's another headline, brand new article on your screen from Bloomberg. Biden orders shots for millions, calling unvaccinated a threat. Now, here are the key points, folks. Federal workers can face dismissal if they are not vaccinated. Companies may be fined if they don't require shots. In fact, President Biden said he'll order all executive branch employees, federal contractors, and millions of healthcare workers to be vaccinated, and his administration will issue rules requiring large private employers to mandate shots or testing. This is in response to the Delta variant. In fact, federal employees who don't comply could be dismissed, the administration said, and private employers may be fined. President Biden said this in a speech from the White House. This is not about freedom or personal choice. In fact, he was taking a shot at many Republican officials who have said the exact opposite. President Biden said this. It's about protecting yourself and those around you, the people you work with, the people you care about, the people you love. My job as president is to protect all Americans. And the president said that his latest plan would, I quote, combat those blocking public health and also protects our economy and will make our kids safer in school. So the federal workforce mandate, folks, will face a lot of opposition from outside groups, including labor unions who represent 4 million executive branch workers, meaning workers who essentially work with the government. Now, employers could face fines of nearly $14,000 per violation if they don't mandate or encourage or force their employees to get the vaccine. In fact, an emergency regulation will be developed requiring companies with 100 or more employees to require staff to be vaccinated or tested weekly and to give paid time off to individuals who need to be vaccinated. This is a big measure. In addition, President Biden said the White House will spend nearly $2 billion to buy 280 million rapid tests as part of an effort to expand testing and to use the Wartime Defense Production Act to expand manufacturing of tests. The administration will also send 25 million tests to community health centers and food banks. President Biden said that Walmart, Amazon, and Kroger grocery stores will sell at home rapid COVID-19 tests at cost for the next 3 months. In addition, President Biden is proceeding with a plan to start booster shots as soon as the 20th of September. That's just over a week from today, subject to approval from health officials. And officials expect to begin Pfizer-BioNTech boosters at first. So this is a pretty aggressive measure, folks, to try and push this agenda, if you will. Let me know whether you agree or disagree. In the meantime, Everett Kelly, who's the president of the American Federation of Government Employees, which, by the way, is the largest union for federal workers, did voice support for the vaccines, but also indicated that the new order should be negotiated with the labor groups. He said this: workers deserve a voice in their working conditions. We expect to bargain over this change prior to implementation, and we urge everyone who is able to get vaccinated as soon as they can do so. So there does seem to be support for this, but it does look like the mechanics need to be worked out. But folks, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done. President Biden said that a quarter of eligible Americans, about 80 million people, he said, have not yet had a shot. He said the vast majority of Americans are doing the right thing. That 25% can cause a lot of damage, and they are. Wow. So folks, this poses the big question. Can you be required to get vaccinated against COVID? And the short answer is no. However, the president can mandate this for federal employees because he is the head of the executive branch. So basically, the president can do this for federal employees, and he can ask private employers to do this. Now, how private employers implement it, and by the way, now I believe private employers will have cover to implement it because they were concerned about lawsuits and so on. But now private employers will say, hey, don't blame me. The White House said I could do it. So this is President Biden essentially giving cover to private employers. Will we see lawsuits from those who don't want to be vaccinated? We sure will. But folks, this should not be a discussion about lawsuits. This should be about public health and safety. And in my opinion, this is my personal opinion, you getting a vaccine is not something you're doing for yourself. It's something you're doing for those around you. I think it is a responsible thing to do. Let me know whether you agree or disagree in the comment section below. In the meantime, here's another headline of an article on your screen from Bloomberg. These are the US companies requiring COVID vaccines for employees. So there are a bunch of companies that require vaccines for employees and companies on the vaccine fence. Let's take a look at this image. 47% require vaccination for at least some staff. 53% at this moment in time don't require vaccination for staff. Let's go through the list. No jab, no jobs. At least 9 companies say they will terminate employees who fall under the mandate and refuse vaccinations, with exceptions for medical and religious reasons. These companies are CVS, Humana, Johnson & Johnson, Kraft Heinz, TJX, United Airlines, Walmart, and the Washington Post. Now, despite all of this, 14% of American adults have said they do not intend to get the shot, and many companies are offering everything from gift cards, a lottery with payouts up to $500,000, and other kinds of incentives. Some retailers are offering frontline workers a few hours pay as a carrot, if you will, as an incentive. But there are many individuals who are resisting the vaccine, and many of them will work from home or will have to look for a new job. So you can start to see, folks, that this is a growing trend amongst many employers. In fact, let's show you this US employer vaccine survey. And you'll see in the third column, is there a vaccine requirement for some staff? And as we scroll down that list, you'll start to see that some employers have a vaccine requirement. Again, that's column number 3. And column number 4 essentially signifies termination for non-compliance. You can see that for the most part, there's no termination for non-compliance. But what's really interesting is if you look at the last column, many of these companies are actually providing incentives for vaccination, which I find extremely interesting. Providing incentives to people so that they can want to get vaccinated. However, you'll start to see again as we scroll down that list that the vaccine requirement for some staff does not exist for a majority of these companies. Some companies do have a vaccine requirement for some staff, but most of these companies do have incentives for vaccinations. I believe that now with President Biden's announcement, I believe more and more companies, I believe that third column, which is the vaccine requirement for some staff, will start flipping to yes. Yes, it'll start flipping to yes for more and more companies, because these companies will now say, hey, the federal government said so, and therefore this is something that we should start to do. Now, do you agree or disagree? Let me know what you think in the comment section below. In the meantime, let's take a look at this segment from President Biden to unvaccinated Americans. What more is there to wait for? What more do you need to see? We've made vaccinations free, safe, and convenient. Let's roll the tape and hear from President Biden. Let's watch.
My message to unvaccinated Americans is this. What more is there to wait for? What more do you need to see? We've made vaccinations free, safe, and convenient. The vaccine has FDA approval. Over 200 million Americans have gotten at least one shot. We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin, and your refusal has cost all of us. So please do the right thing. But just don't take it from me. Listen to the voices of unvaccinated Americans who are lying in hospital beds, taking their final breath saying, if only I'd gotten vaccinated. If only. It's a tragedy. Please don't let it become yours.
That's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. This is a very controversial subject. And personally, I don't believe why it needs to be controversial, but it just is. And I want to respect everyone's opinions. But I tried to do my best to cover this in an objective way and try and present all sides of the argument. Thank you so much for watching. Please click the like button. Please click subscribe. Please enable notifications. I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.